Welcome to the Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show Podcast, a presentation of Real Country 92.1 Hank FM and NTXVarsitySports.com. Live from Parker County Brewing Company in Willow Park. The Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show Podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. And now, here's the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist.
The Bearcats, who want to run a little tempo here, trips to the far side. Skylar Kirk is the tight end to the left. It is a give to Caden Winkle. Breaks it into the clear. 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Aledo Bearcats.
And we are back from the bye, and we welcome you to the Aledo Coaches Show Podcast. I'm Kevin Lonnquist, and we are here at the Parker County Brewing Company. We will bring you every podcast from this location throughout the 2025-26 school year. And we're on the patio because of all this beautiful fall weather. Well, as we're recording this on Monday, maybe need a little bit more time, but it's going to be settling in here in the not-so-distant future. So this will be our landing spot for the foreseeable future. We also want to thank our two main sponsors between H5 Sports Barn and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. We always appreciate their support of the podcast and Aledo Athletics. Number one Aledo now 7-0 following its 61-0 victory over Grandbury on October 10th at Tim Buchanan Stadium. Second shutout of the season. The first one was the 18-0 victory at Lonnquist. That was game number 2. The District 3-5A season continues this Friday following the bye. With the Grandbury win, the Bearcats are now 5-0 in district action, and the national record district winning streak is now at 132. And in case you didn't hear, Aledo has already clinched a playoff spot. That streak is up to 30 consecutive seasons, dating back to 1996. Number one Aledo back in North Richland Hills at the Birdville Fine Arts and Athletics Complex to take on the Richland Royals. They are 6-2 and 5-1 in District 3-5A. This is the third all-time meeting between the two programs. Aledo, of course, won the second one last year in dramatic fashion, and the Royals have clinched a playoff spot. They got into a Donnybrook with a Grandbury last week down in Hood County and won that game by a count of 63-40. As always, we have two segments in our show. We'll start with Aledo head coach Robby Jones and review the Grandbury win and look ahead to Friday against Richland. And in our second, we'll be joined by junior defensive back Alex Patten and senior wide receiver Jamal Hollister. I want to ask you just about the JV programs because we don't talk much about them during the course of these podcasts, but you mentioned the fact of really trying to make up for the games that you lost against Geyer. I would think because these are guys that are going to be playing for you all next year, or for most of them, or some guys that you might have to bring up this year because of injury or just the way they're performing or anything of that nature. They've got to get the reps in. It's important for them to play, and you only get 10 of these in the course of a given season because there's no postseason for the sub-varsity teams.
Yeah, and that's the reason we went out and tried to find games. We were fortunate enough to get the game with Midlothian with the Orange team because they were in the same situation. They had week one, and they didn't get to play their game. So, and our bye weeks both matched up. So we had to find somebody where our bye week was matching up, and they needed a game. So it worked out for us. And yeah, we need to get those guys game reps. That we got guys that at any moment could be pulled up. To the varsity because of injuries or something like that. So we want to make sure that we're getting those guys ready.
All right, health of your team. You're in pretty good shape now since you're coming off the bye. You didn't have receiver Caden Finley for Grandbury. Really didn't need him. A bit of a knee deal, but nothing major. And so sounds like he's ready to good to go for Richland. You've also had Grant Foreman, your center, who's kind of dealing with an elbow situation as well. What's his status?
Yeah, I mean, Caden's full go. He needed a little bit of rest. That was the way his problem was going to get solved, was to rest him. So, he got the week of Grandbury off. He did a little bit of running during that week, and then during the bye week, he was able to go and practice with us. We just held him out quite a bit, to make sure he was getting plenty of rest so that he was good to go this week. And he seems to be, as healthy as he's been all year. And then Foreman did have a little bit of an elbow issue towards the end of the Grandbury game. He went out in the first half, I believe it was, and then Caldwell came in and finished out the game.
Right.
His deal is one of those where he needs a brace on the elbow, and so we had to wait for the brace to come in. It came in today. He missed this morning's practice, but Coach Little got him fitted in his brace this afternoon, and he's going to be good to go tomorrow morning.
All right, sounds good. Okay, so let's take a little bit of a look from the win over Grandbury. Again, it was 61-0, and I would think that it went about the way I think you thought it was going to go against them. This is no disrespect to Bobby Allison's program, but you got a lot of players in the game. Individual numbers may not jump out because when you're spreading the wealth like that, that's what happens here. But I would think, what were your impressions of what you took out of that game?
Yeah, one of the things that I liked the most about it was we were getting the ball to multiple people, and that's something that we haven't been able to do a whole lot this year. But, and it might have been because Caden was out, and Caden, when he's in there, he's one of the main focal points of the offense. But not having him open things up for the other receivers, and the other receivers were getting a lot of balls. That was good to see because, people are going to try to take Caden away from us at times. And when that's happening, when we had a situation like that when we had JoJo and we were playing Mansfield and Timberview, and they had a guy that was following him around, and they were double covering him all night. Well, he basically became a decoy, and we were using our other receivers, and they came up big in that game. Right. And that's what, we're going to see with these guys. I've been saying it all along. We have very capable receivers. It's not just a one-man show. So I think it was good for those guys to get out there and get a few more balls.
Yeah, and one of the gentlemen who are going to be joining us here, Jamal, Hollister had a big game for you. I think it was 5-6 catches for you, and so just getting, a great opportunity for him, and he took advantage of it. So.
Yeah, it was, and one of the things that Coach Williams has been talking about is to try to get some of those other guys like Jamal involved in some of the screen game that we got going on. So you might see, a little bit more of the ball going to different people than just to Caden.
Okay. Obviously, this quarterback situation is what it is. I'm not going to be labor the point because we've beaten it to death between Nash McElree as well as Lincoln Tubbs. But I did want to ask you about your third-string quarterback and Chris Sandoval. And when he's come into these games that have gotten out of hand, I like his arm. He's got some things to him that are kind of intriguing to watch. And even though it may not show up because of where the games are at, what do you think of him overall?
Yeah, he's a good, quarterback. He's the third on the depth chart, which, means you don't get a whole lot of time. But, when he does get in the game, he does make a couple of good throws and does a really good job for us.
All right. So let's take a look about this team that you all played a week and a half ago. Held them to 69 yards of total offense, 20 in the second half. And I'm sure that can be a little bit frustrating when a team isn't going to give you the resistance that – I know you weren't expecting a ton of resistance, but one of it was even less than what you maybe anticipated. Even in a game that you're supposed to dominate, I would imagine, too, that there's well, what do we take from this because of what we're seeing here, that sort of thing.
Yeah, going into the game, we knew that Grandbury's defense was a little bit better than their offense was, so we were expecting, to have a little bit more difficult time offensively than we would be defensively. We felt like our defense would be able to hold up really well against them and kind of have the numbers that you said. They did have the one long run where the guy actually that made that run went through off-season with us, so I give our off-season a little bit of credit for the run. But he broke a couple of tackles, and then Alex ran him down. Alex showed the speed that we know Alex has. He registered 21 miles an hour on the GPS tracker on that play, so he went and ran the guy down. And then that basically kept him out of the end zone, that preserved the shutout.
Maybe we should call Alex taillights then with how fast he's going. And so, but, the other thing, too, is that, speaking of Alex, we saw that little wrinkle right at the end of the first half, 35-yard touchdown pass to him. And I remember you telling Mercedes Meyer in your halftime interview that you guys had been working on that throughout the course of the fall and that you needed a spot to try and pick and maybe use it, and that was the opportunity. So when does a coach know that, yes, we're going to do this now? Is it kind of like, how do you pick your spot for something like that?
Yeah, we've been working it all year. We have a crossover period built in with our team. We have a team period, and then at the end of that team period, there's another little segment that we call crossover, and Alex comes down every day during crossover, works on certain routes that coaches want him to get used to and be able to run for us. And we went into the game, and Coach Williams said, hey, I really want to try to get Alex. We've been working him all year. We want to get him, at least one play, 2 plays, out at receiver. And I said, good, let's do it. And Coach saw that opportunity. He had him ready. We went out and got the first down. I think we had a 3rd and short. Went out, ran the ball, got the first down, then jumped in the spread formation and had Alex ready to go. And and sent him in with the play.
Okay, and for using him on offense moving forward, is that something that you would consider that as a as-need basis, or are now, after watching what you watched between practice and the play against Grandbury, are you and Coach Williams kind of going, and you have a big one, too, in Caden Finley that's coming back here. But how do you kind of look at that? Because it's kind of like that little, if you will, tease. You see something like that, and it's like, well, maybe we could do something more here if we wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, we can't use him too much because then we might get him too tired to play defense. We've had that situation before.
Sure.
We had a player a few years back, Kenton Day, who we would bring in and throw the ball to. This was back in the Cole Lofton era.
Right.
And Kenton was one of our, top defensive backs, and we would bring him in from time to time. And I think at one point he had like 8 catches and 6 touchdowns, type of deal. So it was pretty good average. And, so we would just pick, the right time to slide him into the game and try to get the ball to him. So that's kind of what we're thinking with Alex is, different parts of the game, we might bring him in, and try to get the ball to him.
Okay. So as we turn our attention to Richland, this was one of those trap games during the winning streak that took place last year. You guys were fighting for your lives, rallied and won 49-42 in overtime. There was a key penalty on, I think, their tying touchdown right at the end of the game. I think they got hit with a delay of game penalty. And I remember asking Jed Cates a couple days later, their head coach, that he said that if they weren't hit with that delay, he probably would have gone for 2 to try and get the win. Obviously, that penalty changed all their circumstances. But other than what I just said, what do you else remember about that game?
I remember that they had a really good game plan against us. They spread us out. They ran the quarterback like 30 times. And that kid was tough. He took a lot of shots in that game, but he just kept going and going and going. So, they've got a lot of fight in them is what I learned from Richland last year. And, we've worked on, taking away some of the things that they like to do best. There's going to be a big matchup in this game. We got our defensive ends coach, John Kirk. His brother, Lamar Kirk, is the offensive line coach and offensive coordinator. So we got a little brother battle going on there. But, we know it's going to be a tough football game. This is one of the better offenses that we're going to see this year.
Yeah, for sure.
They've got the real deal at running back. They've got a big offensive line. I don't know what they average. I know both guards are over 300 pounds. So they do a really good job of running the zone. Kind of like we do. We run a lot of zone. They run a lot of zone, a lot of base, and that running back does a really good job. He doesn't need a big crease. He gets a little bit of a crease and he hits it and he goes. And he's really good. He's probably one of the best running backs we've seen this year.
For sure. And let's just talk about them, what they're doing so far this year. Now, their defense kind of up and down, but this is what they're doing offensively, and this is why the Royals are dangerous, averaging 475 yards per game, and they've scored at least 42 points in all 6 of their wins. Again, they're 6-2. And again, probably, to your point, as you said a few moments ago, maybe the most stressful offense you're going to see through these first 8 games of the season.
Yeah, exactly. Big offensive line. I already mentioned the running back. Quarterback is the younger brother of the Cates brothers. He does a really good job of operating his dad's offense, and then they've got receivers out wide that are speed guys, and they get behind the defense and they get some home run balls. So, everything that you really need to have a good offense, they have it, and so it's going to be a challenge for our defense. But I think our defense is going to be up for the challenge.
Sure, and let's talk about Brett Cates. As you mentioned, he's the younger brother of Drew, and this is what he's doing to this point. Nearly 1,700 yards passing, 16 touchdown passes, only 3 interceptions. And the question I have for you is, how is he the same as his brother, and how is he different from his older brother?
He's not as big as his older brother yet. He may be there next year. Arm strength, he's got similar arm strength, but they both compete. That's the thing about him. And you saw that last year with Drew.
Yeah.
He was a competitor, and he was getting after it, and he was tough. And the younger brother seems to be the same type of kid. So, very similar, in everything that they do at quarterback.
Okay, so about those wide receivers you mentioned too, the Benjamin Sanders and Aaron Brooks, and these are each over 500-yard receivers to this point. They're probably, because again, Richland's probably going to go a couple rounds in the playoffs this year. They could be on the verge of getting close to 1,000 before the season is over. They've combined for 9 touchdowns. And even though they're new pass catchers, they're the same problems. And so how different are they from the receivers you saw last year? And what's going to be the key to kind of defending those guys?
I mean, one of them is one of the same receivers we saw last year.
Oh, that's right. Okay, excuse me. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, they had some really dynamic receivers last year. I can't remember the kid's name. Went to Memphis.
Right.
I think he's actually playing for Memphis right now. But same type of kids. They got the game-breaking speed. We just got to make sure that we're on top of them and we don't allow them to get behind us. And then when they run their little screens, we got to come up. And that's one of the things our corners this year have been is really physical. They got to be physical with them on all those screens and make them not want to do those things.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit further about their running back. His name is Ja'Shawn Gibson, 2027 kid. He's already pushing 1,500 yards on the ground this year, has scored 23 touchdowns, has a bunch of P4 offers, good size, as you mentioned, 5'10", about 175. Even though you didn't see him last year, but you saw him for a couple plays when he was on linebacker last year. But you talked about the crease where he can find that hole. But what are the other problems that he presents when he's in space or just trying to bottle him up between the A gaps or the B gaps?
Yeah, I mean he's got good enough speed to take it the distance. He's not one of those guys that we're going to run down from behind. He gets loose on us. We're going to have a hard time catching him. Is one of the things, and he's also a strong runner. We've seen him break some tackles. He's got really good moves. I remember one run from the Denton-Ryan game where he made 2 different guys miss, before anybody was able to get their hands on him. So he's the complete package as far as a running back, and his cousin is Timon Meeks. So he's got that in.
Okay.
So Timon, made sure that I knew that was his cousin.
So we have a lot of things going on here with the Kirk brothers, and now with this cousin situation here with Gibson and Timon on this. Of course, there are district championship implications with this game because you're not out of the woods yet, even though we kind of said a couple weeks ago that the Ryan game was, and I stressed it, the word de facto district championship game. But of course, we learned a hard lesson about that last year. So I'm sure that's probably something that you impressed upon your team about saying, even though we beat Ryan, this is a problem too, a big problem that we got to deal with.
Yeah, we've discussed it. We discussed it last week. The fact that, hey, listen, we mess around, we let these guys beat us. We're going to be in a bad situation on the tiebreaker because we could end up as tri-district champs. And in that situation, it's going to go with the positive points. And we have 1 positive point. And Ryan's sitting over there with 8. Richland's going to have, if they beat us, they're going to beat us by at least 1, and then they're going to have head-to-head over us.
Right.
So we're going to be in a bad situation if there is a tiebreaker. So we're looking at the possibility if we lose this game, we're not going to be hosting a first-round district or by-district game.
Sure. And then the one thing I was going to mention, is there a max points here in the district, and if so, what are they?
Yeah, 17, but it's all positive points. And,
sure.
And like I said, we're in a bad situation in positive points, winning by 1.
Sure, it's like we won, but now it's like maybe we needed to win by more over Ryan a couple weeks ago.
Exactly.
Speaking of your defense, I would think that your defense has looked at this throughout the week, and maybe there was a break that you all got for getting a couple of extra days. I don't know how much you could take from their game last week against Grandbury because they didn't play as many guys that they normally would, and maybe their effort was just let's get through this and get it over with, that sort of thing. But as you're preparing for this, I'm sure you were focusing more on the Ryan film than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, you turn them on against Ryan, and then you turn them on against Grandbury, and they look like 2 different teams. So we're expecting to get that effort that they gave against Ryan. And, not taking anything away from Grandbury. Grandbury played a heck of a game last week.
Right.
But they didn't have their top defensive lineman for the first half of the game. I know they were missing one of their linebackers. Their best corner has been out most of the season. He could be back. I don't know. I'm trying to think of his name. Jalen Gordon, I believe is his name. He went out in their first game of the year, and we haven't seen him since. But I went to the game last week, and I was looking for him on the sideline. Of course, they didn't wear their jerseys, so I couldn't tell who he was on the sideline.
That's about right, yeah. I get you on that. Okay, so finally, as we wrap this up about your offense, I mean, obviously we've talked about the lulls that this team has gone through. You had a little bit of that last week 2 weeks ago, rather, against Grandbury, but then you had that big flourish with the 16 points. You got the You got the touchdown, then the safety, then you got the touchdown to Alex right at the end. And so I would think that there's been these extra days from an efficiency standpoint. You talked about this right at the beginning of our discussion about working on some things in the passing game. So what are the things that you're looking for as you all are getting ready for Friday against Richland?
I mean, we're looking to be a lot more consistent, with the passes. We've had open receivers that we've missed. We've had, situations where maybe our receivers run the wrong route because they had the play wrong. But we're looking to be more consistent and make sure that we're on the same page. We worked on a lot of timing because a lot of those routes are timing, especially, when we're running the 12 back to 10 out route, and things like that. We're trying to work on our timing so the quarterbacks and the receivers are on the same page and we can hit those routes.
Yeah, throwing to a spot and making sure and trusting that the receiver will be in that spot too, exactly. Whether that's like an out or a post or a skinny post or seam or something like that.
Any of those, yes, sir.
All right, Coach. Well, we'll look forward to it. Again, the Bearcats and the Royals will be kicking off at 7 o'clock at the Birdville Fine Arts and Athletic Complex. The pregame show on Hank FM will start at 6:30 with yours truly, Kyle Hicks and Mercedes Meyer, and the Deacon here. Coach, again, appreciate your time and have a great week of work.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. And we want to remind you, too, that this Aledo Coaches Show podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn. H5 Sports Barn and I Physio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training, H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. And by Hiley Mazda. Head to Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth today. Their new state-of-the-art facility is conveniently located just off of I-30. Exit Las Vegas Trail and experience top-notch service and hassle-free buying. Don't forget to ask about this month's special offers. Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, family-owned and operated for over 30 years. Stick around. The second version of the podcast comes your way next. We'll be joined by defensive back Alex Patten and wide receiver Jamal Hollister. Stick around. The podcast follows after this timeout.
At the 35, Tubbs to throw on second down, fires down the middle of the field, and he's got Alex Patten wide open. Touchdown!
And we welcome you back to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast here. I was kind of surprised to see number 4 wide open in the end zone on that. Just to see him on offense was one of those things that kind of caught me off guard as I was describing that last play here of the first half in that game against Grandbury. We welcome you back to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast. Second segment coming your way here in just a couple of moments. And we are going to be joined by 2 outstanding athletes. But first, a couple of Aledo notables today. The girls and boys cross-country teams had a great showing Monday at the Class 5A Region 1 meet at May Simmons Park in Lubbock. Both qualified for the state meet October 31st in Round Rock. The girls won the regional title again. The boys were second, their highest showing ever out there in the Region 1 meet. And they also featured individual champions, Molly Garrison for the girls and Tyler Connolly for the boys. As for number 1 Aledo volleyball, yes, that's right. The Lady Cats moved up from number 2 to number 1 in the latest Class 5A poll. They should be wrapping up the District 5A championship by Tuesday. The Lady Cats are 36-2 and 10-0 in District 5A. They're at Kettler Fossil Ridge on Tuesday, and then the regular season finale is Friday at home to Saginaw Chisholm Trail. Like the football team, they have a district winning streak that's been going on for a couple of years. Not as long, but it's still pretty impressive. They're at 33. Okay, pleased to be joined now by, to my immediate left is junior defensive back Alex Patten, and then to my far left is senior wide receiver Jamal Hollister. Guys, great to have you with me. Thanks for doing this today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about how this team has went through the bye and the things that you worked on. So from an individual standpoint, I'll start with you, Jamal. What are the things that you kind of felt like you wanted to kind of hone your craft on while you had the downtime before you guys were starting to get looking ahead to Richland?
Mainly rehabbing, and the whole week was working on the pass game against the ones, and I was going against Alex the whole week, just getting me better, getting him better.
Okay, and then what about for you, Alex? What things that you were working on?
Basically the same thing, working on techniques that we would use in the game, going against the ones all week.
Okay, so when you guys were going one-on-ones, what does that do, though, when you have that, to use a coaching phrase, good on good? What does that do in terms of just competition, focus, getting your attention, that sort of thing? I'll start with you on this, Alex.
I mean, I like to say iron sharpens iron. Like, when he gets better, I get better because we're perfecting our craft, getting better, just helping each other out, showing our weaknesses.
Okay, and then what about for you, Jamal?
It makes me better. He's a great athlete, and doing moves on him that I do in the game, it makes me better as it makes them better.
Okay, so I know that players are creatures of habit and that you all want to keep going and going and going throughout the course of a season, and you get all this energy. But when you step back from it, now since you're a few days removed from the bye, do you guys appreciate the fact that you did get some time off here? And how did that mean in terms of just, you talked about rehab here, Jamal, but what did that mean to have just getting that bye to kind of catch your breath before hopefully you guys make another deep push into December, the playoffs, that sort of thing?
It's always good to rest your body, rehab, ice bath, hot bath, sauna. I did that about 3 times last week, and this week I feel 100% going into the Richland game.
Okay, and then what about for you, Alex?
We're pretty much the same, just getting some good stretching in, ice baths, and really the whole team just getting healthy.
Yeah, it seems like everyone is pretty well good to go. You heard Coach talking about the 2 guys that were dinged up a little bit, though, but they should be ready to go for Friday against the Royals. Okay, Jamal, I know this has been a time for you to continue to grow in this offense, and I ask players who move into this program all the time, doesn't matter if they've been here for 1 or 2 years, but what was the challenge for you when you came over here from Saginaw, Boswell, right before the 2024 season, understanding the Aledo way of doing things? Not so much from a game standpoint, but just an off-season training standpoint to understand what's being asked of you for an upcoming season.
Everyone says the standard is standard, and this standard was much higher than the one before. And coming in the off-season, I had to work harder, I had to push myself more, and it made me a better player.
And I heard one player who told me that it was so hard that he threw up during the offseason. And I hope that wasn't the same for you. But maybe you can appreciate what he was talking about, how demanding his was. I mean, can you talk about that a little bit more about it?
For sure. I threw up on track workouts. The track workouts were the hardest workouts I ever did.
Okay. All right. So I want to ask you, too, because you're kind of in this unique position along with Bain, along with Caden, all the other receivers, about playing with 2 different quarterbacks in Nash McElry and Lincoln Tubbs. We know reps are important, but what else is going to go into developing a rapport with them, chemistry? Ball comes out differently out of 2 different hands. So what's kind of being key for you to understand that if it's coming out of Lincoln to you or if it's coming out of Nash to you, how you have to adjust to something like that?
Just working with both of them at practice, running our routes 100%, so we run them 100% in the game. We just on point.
Okay, and so for Alex, I want to ask you about your growth in this defense. Saw a lot of time last year. Where do you think you've seen the most growth in your game from 2024 to 2025?
Confidence, for sure. Yeah, my confidence went way up.
Tell me about a moment, perhaps, where you kind of felt where you crossed that threshold from like, I think I can do this, I don't know if I can do this, to where I know I can do this.
Around springtime, like when I started training more and actually believing in my abilities.
Was it this past spring before
spring.
the 25 season?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe a defining point, too, for you maybe was in the Denton Ryan game with the interception, too. Is that kind of a validation point? Do you look at it like that?
Yeah.
So take me through that play. I mean, what did you see on that play coming out of?
So I saw 2 receivers running at me, and I just saw the ball in there, and I just went and attacked it, and I just went up and got it.
All right. So I want to talk to you about this defense, and in particular, the secondary. You have Jordan Hall opposite of you at the other corner. You have Lamel Swanson and Cameron Hall at the safeties. Did you all think that you all could be in a position to rival what the 2023 secondary possessed? And they were led by really 2 good cornerbacks between Chris Johnson and Jaden Allen. What was the expectations of what this quartet could do this year?
I mean, we already knew coming in that we was going to be a pretty good secondary. We were just all believing in our abilities, and we were just playing our game. We just wasn't trying to compare ourselves.
Okay, so I've kind of waited this too long here, but I want to ask you about the 35-yard touchdown pass on this. And so end of the first half against Grandbury. Coach had said they'd been working with you on that all season long, maybe a little bit more during the week leading up to it. And Coach Williams talking about that there was an opportunity to maybe put it in the game against Grandbury. So just what'd you see on that? And what's the excitement? Because you're going on the field. You're not going out there to be a decoy. They're going to throw it to you. So what's kind of like going through your mind as now it's like, okay, enough practice. This is going to count. And so you got to pick it up.
Yeah, it was a different feeling from defense. Like I felt more excitement, more adrenaline, and I saw the ball in the air. It didn't feel real at first until I caught it. And I was just excited.
Do you have your legs, or were your legs kind of like jelly on that play?
They were.
Okay. All right. So Jamal, I want to ask you about playing with your twin brother Jamal, and he's a reserve linebacker for this team, but he's gotten a lot of great playing time here in a lot of the games throughout the year. So what has that meant for you to be able to play with him, and how does it mean to you, or what does it mean to you now, because you're both seniors and this is it?
Yeah, it's a great experience. I've been playing with him since I was 7, so 10 years of playing with my brother. Well, that's my twin, and it's great to play with him. It's the brotherhood that we bring to the team is great. And this year's our last year, and we just make it a year to remember.
Okay, so I need to know who's older, you or him?
Me, like 7 minutes.
7 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So, and I'm assuming you're going to play that card as much as you can, right?
For sure.
All right. And how much would you say you have used it to this point?
My whole life.
Okay. That's right. There are no statute of limitations
No,
on
sir.
that, right? I got you on that. Okay, so let's talk about the challenge of Richland. Obviously, you guys have seen a lot of them on field, and particularly probably against Denton Ryan a couple of weeks ago. Jamal, what would it mean for this offense to get off to a quick start? I know it's been a little bit up and down on some things here, but against an offense like that that's very explosive, what would that mean for you guys?
It'll mean that we're getting better every week. Coming out, getting a hot start against Richland, it'll show the district and show the state that our offense is what we say it is the best offense in the state.
Okay, and now I want to ask you, Alex, on the defensive side against this Richland offense, their quarterback, Brett Cates, they have two receivers there in Benjamin Sanders and Aaron Brooks, very dynamic guys, great pass catchers. It's going to be a great challenge for you and Jordan, but what are the challenges that are going to be important about trying to make them earn everything they get, whatever they catch?
I mean, our D-line is going to get back there for sure, so they're going to have to get off the ball fast. Quarterback's going to have to release the ball fast. They're going to have to earn every yard they get.
Okay, and I was going to ask you this too. I mean, the way you guys have been playing defense this year, you've allowed only 8 points a game. Does that even surprise you what you guys have been able to do to this point? Because I've not seen a defense for Aledo, and I've seen a lot of good Aledo defenses here over the years, but this one kind of has a little bit of a different feel to it. What do you think is the thing that makes this thing click like it has to this point?
We got more energy, and we got some leaders back there like Lamel and Chase. They really bring energy up in us, and it just helps us play better.
All right, and then Jamal, I want to ask you about just where this offense is going. You guys broke 60 against Grandbury. You've broken 50 about 2 or 3 other times this year, and so what is this group capable of doing? And I don't think people can look at the numbers, individual numbers against Grandbury, and take much out of it because so many guys got the football. But as Coach was talking about, so many different guys can catch a pass, and so maybe we're starting to see this offense kind of scratch the surface and maybe go beyond that a little bit. What do you see?
I see that whoever we play, whatever defense we play, we're going to get better. We're going to run the ball when we want to run the ball. We're going to pass the ball when we want to pass the ball, and we're going to be successful at doing it.
Okay. And one thing I was going to ask you, too, about maybe the most defining touchdown for this team was maybe not so much like the go-ahead touchdown that Lincoln scored after you guys had the short field, but maybe the Brady Powell 11-yard touchdown run earlier against Ryan that brought that to 14-9, that physicalness on this. And that's one of the things I've seen about is how physical that offensive line is. When you watch that group, maybe from afar, like if you're running a pattern or if you're a blocking assignment on a screen or whatever, what do you see when you watch that line in action?
I see the mindset that they have. They have a get it mindset. They're going to go get us in the end zone. They're going to go get it. They'll get after every play. All right.
And then finally, as we wrap this up, I want to ask a little bit about some recruiting here because both of you have aspirations. Alex, you still got another year in front of you. Jamal, this is it. You have some options in front of you. But for you, Alex, you've got about 15 Power 4 and G5 offers here. Your dad, Marcus, the defensive coordinator at Sacramento State. Obviously, how has he helped you in this process? How has Coach Jones and his staff helped you? And you personally, how are you trying to deal with all this because of the attention that you're getting, that sort of thing?
Yeah, my dad really helps me a lot. He shows me what to believe and what to not believe. He gets me around good coaches, and I basically know a lot about recruiting and how to get my name out there more. And Coach Jones helps too. Yeah.
Okay, and then Jamal, for you, I mean, you have a couple of schools that have offered you from the lower division, Southwest Baptist and Augustana, but bring me up to speed on any others that you have offers from, and then how you're kind of treating this process, because maybe some things could open up for you even more once the season is over.
I have a few offers from a lot of divisions. I'm going to let each opportunity come to me. Every win, a lot of opportunities are going to come. So the more we win, the more opportunities I'm going to get. I'm going to see how the recruiting plays out.
Okay, final question for you guys. I lied. I have one more. But in terms of just what's the excitement like getting back out and playing after sitting out for 2 weeks? I mean, is it pent up energy, or what's it like for you, Jamal?
It's just every week that we have a game. Every week, everybody has a goal. It's to win. This goal is to win. This week we have to go to win, and we're gonna do that.
All right. And Alex, Friday can't come soon enough, right?
Yeah, I can't wait for this game. I mean, it sucks sitting out. I like having a bye week to get my body ready, but I just love playing games.
Yeah, when you kind of get to like maybe that Monday or Tuesday of the week leading up to the game, it's kind of like, all right, I've sat down long enough. It's time to get going.
Yeah.
I got you on that. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. To my immediate left is junior defensive back Alex Patten, and to my far left is senior wide receiver Jamal Hollister. Let's give them a big hand for what they did. And we want to remind you that this Aledo Coaches Show podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn. H5 Sports Barn and Nye Physio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training, H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. And by Hiley Mazda. Head to Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth today. Their new state-of-the-art facility is conveniently located just off of I-30. Exit Las Vegas Trail and experience top-notch service and hassle-free buying. Don't forget to ask about this month's special offers. Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, family owned and operated for over 30 years. For my engineer, Zach Holmes, and the rest of the Hank FM staff, thanks for being with us here at Parker County Brewing Company. We will be back next week when the Bearcats are getting to prepare their final regular season home game against Azle. It will be senior night. That's how fast the season is going. Have a great week. I'm Kevin Lonnquist, and so long for the Aledo Coaches Show podcast.
Trips to the far side. Wingfield is his running back to his right. McElroy will throw, wants to fire, wants to look for Skylar Kirk in the end zone, and he's got it. Touchdown. 23 yards to Skylar Kirk. A little pitch and catch there. And the Bearcats are over 40. They lead 43-0.
Thanks for listening to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. With the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist. Please like and subscribe to this podcast and tell a friend. You're also welcome to join us every Monday night at 7 from Parker County Brewing Company in Willow Park. It's the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, a presentation of Real Country 92.1, Hank FM, and NTXVarsitySports.com.